Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a great weekend. I know Jim and I had a fantastic weekend, and it wasn't. We spent the weekend working, but it was like really good stuff. And those of you who kind of watch us, is that we were doing a tune-up on our 2-year vision. And took the opportunity because, you know, we encourage dealers to do this exercise. We took the opportunity to go somewhere, like we encourage our dealers do, where you can unplug and really kind of think about, you know, what matters to you and, you know, what you want to be able to create. And so those of you who know us on social media, we went to a local beach and just wrote and you know, or I did more than Jim did, but just like what a great experience that in itself was. And then go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, it's good. I also spent a lot of time in thought and kind of thinking ahead to the visioning that we talk about. So yeah, it was really productive. We also just had some really fantastic kind of strategy sessions and planning out some things. So it was really a fruitful weekend and enjoyable. I mean, you know, yeah, we worked through our weekend at times, but it was all really just fun work. So, you know, I guess when you're having fun, it's not quite the same, right?
Exactly. And actually this morning, you know, we've included the podcast as part of our official coffee time. And we like to sit out on the deck and drink coffee. And so I think we started our coffee time about 7:30.
Yeah.
And we just started, it's like it was a continuation of all of this brainstorming stuff that we did over the weekend. And we started like really fleshing out some different pieces.
Right.
And it's before we know it, it's like, oh my gosh, we have 15 minutes before the broadcast.
Scramble.
We better get ready to do this because it does take a couple of minutes. And yeah.
So a couple of announcements before we dive in, and I want to acknowledge a couple of people. Bill Elizondo is as with us as he often is. Thanks for tuning in, Bill. And Bill will actually be in our studio with us on Thursday. Is that right?
Not for the morning show.
No.
But we'll be recording a Tote the Note a podcast on.
Yeah. So we're on Tote the Note, and we'll be talking about leasing. So looking forward to having Bill actually visit us here at our place in Clearwater. And so that'll be fun. And then good morning, David Norton, George Spat. He's here in Florida. Good morning. And Tommy Brandis in Pennsylvania. Glad to have you here this morning. So yeah, it was a fantastic morning. Just a quick announcement, Michelle. I want to get the word out that we made an executive hire.
Oh yeah,
and it's a really important one. We're going to be sending out a news release on that today or tomorrow. But yeah, I've got Dave Murray, somebody I've known for some time, and we were lucky enough to catch him at a time that he could join us. So he's joining us as COO and going to help us to execute on all these great roadmap items that we've got ahead.
Yep. That vision thing, you know, that whole big vision thing.
So again, we feel really fortunate and
really
we'll be spreading the word about that.
I also wanted to mention we're meeting with Bill on, is it Wednesday or it's Thursday?
I think it's Thursday.
And then we have hold on, I'm opening up my calendar. On Friday, we also are recording another broadcast with for Tote the Note with Brent Carmichael.
Right.
Those of you guys who know him, really big, heavy hitter, NCM. He's now moderating 11 20 groups. And the topic of that one is going to be why dealerships fail.
Yeah.
That's going to be a really good one.
So I hope Brent heard you call him a heavy hitter. That's good. That's good. He'll like it.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
You know, I haven't even asked him if he listens.
He is. I'm sure he doesn't. I think
he's so
what did
busy.
We say? We counted him. There's four listeners.
We
are,
followers. Something like that.
Kidding. Yeah, we're excited to have Brent record with us again.
Yeah.
So that's been good stuff.
Oh, and also, I mean, I know lots of announcements, but those of you who have not picked up on the podcast, Independent Dealers Podcast, They did a fantastic episode last week on the 3 ways you're getting stolen from.
With Steve
I probably
Carson's.
just completely murdered that, but with Steve Carson. So good.
Mhm.
Everyone should listen to it. So Independent Dealers Podcast.
Yeah, check
Everyone
that
should
out.
listen to that.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, those guys obviously know their stuff. And then Steve Karstens is somebody who's been around that a long time.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he kind of
Really, really
he
good
told
stuff.
some stories. I haven't seen the whole episode yet, but he told
Mhm.
stories about some of his actual
Yeah.
experiences. And
Yes,
so
we
it's good.
listen to other people's podcasts.
Yeah, of course.
It's good
Yeah,
stuff.
and of course
Yep.
we've known Luke and Jeff for some time anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think that you were on one of their podcasts at the
Been a
early.
couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's get to work here. We've wasted enough of our 30.
Have we?
Yeah. Well, it's
Okay.
already
All right.
almost like 6 minutes in. So Management Monday, and our topic this week is
It's just around our list. Are you that asleep?
I apparently
What
haven't.
happened to you?
I don't
Where'd
know.
you go? So, yeah, so
All
we're
of a
just
sudden she
continuing the
blanks out.
conversation around the quote,
Oh,
unquote,
it's
the list.
Yeah, the list of
Mhm.
like how you can
Mhm.
initiatives and how you can manage your time more effectively.
Yeah, so we actually just started. We asked people last week, for those who missed the Monday episode last week, we started into this in the month of August. We're going to use all 5 Mondays to talk about management and hopefully help give some tips about how to improve our results and our productivity day in and day out. And that starts with the dealers. We could have some general managers listening. It's going to apply to you as well, of course. But really, it's about starting at the top and looking at the list of what are the things that are currently on my list. So we asked everybody to start making a list of all the
Yes.
things they currently kind of find themselves
Like all
doing
the
day
stuff
in.
that you do every day, maybe weekly, whatever. So hopefully those are out there in listening land have been starting to create this list.
Right.
And we're actually going to encourage you to continue this of adding things if you don't have things on your list through actually the full month. But so now with this list, we want you to start to put all these things in a couple of different buckets.
Right. So we just, so we hope that some of you actually started to prepare that list. And so now we want to ask you to think about breaking that list down in terms of, and by the way, continue to work on the list. There will be new stuff come up because some of this stuff is not weekly. It's some of it's, not daily, whatever, but continue to build on the list and then start to break it down. Like, what are the things on your list that are kind of have to, like that has to be?
Yeah. And usually those have tos are things that potentially could be security issues.
Yeah. I'll talk about those in some depth. I mean, we can.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a list.
So the things that you have to do, that it's like no one else could possibly do this because this is something that I have to do. The next one is the things that you want to do.
Right.
And these are like, I really, really enjoy buying the cars, or I want to keep it on my thing. It's something that I really, really enjoy, because the last thing in the world we want to do is strip your enjoyment of what you do. So the things that you really want to do because you enjoy them. The next one is the things that no one else can because they don't know how.
Right.
So now think about that for a second. The things that no one else can because they don't know how.
It's not that they're capable. It's not that you don't have 5 people in the building that could do the job. It's just that you've never made the time to teach somebody else how to do it.
Yes. And usually those things require training.
Right.
So like the things that no one else can, and you need to train them how to do the thing. And that in itself, for a lot of people that are busy, it's like, I see that with us too, that as we're going through the things, and we've done this exercise ourselves, as we're going through the things, and it's like, what is one of those things that is like a huge time drain for us, and not something that we necessarily enjoy or want to or have to. And why are we still doing it?
Right.
And is this something that we can train someone else to do? And then we kind of get caught in the loop of, I don't have time because I got to get this stuff out. And so this is about helping you carve out time for those kind of things.
Yeah, so we've identified some things in our own business that we feel like we can delegate, we can outsource some of this stuff, and then still be necessary to spot check it and
Oh, yeah.
verify those things. But yeah, there are absolutely things that we can move off of our individual plates.
Exactly. And then the last one is, why the heck am I wasting my time doing this?
Mhm.
And I hope that we all we do that too.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
like, why am I wasting my time? Or why is it that I'm doing this 7 times a day when I could do it once?
Yeah.
And get it done with. So let's recap. These are some of the different buckets. So as you've gone through your list, it's like, do you have to? Because there's a security issue there.
Mhm.
Is this something that I have to do? And, as dealers, we understand that there are certain things that really, we've talked about gaping holes, that kind of stuff, have to do. These are things that I want to do, that you find a lot of enjoyment in doing.
Sure.
Don't strip enjoyment away. I mean, make sure that you enjoy what you're doing. So don't give the tasks that you really enjoy doing to somebody else. The next one is, no one else can,
Right.
which requires some training. It's
And the question is that true? Right.
Okay,
Right.
we'll get into that
Yeah,
later.
yeah, right.
And then, why the heck am I doing this?
Right. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
So I think, with most of our clients, especially the new people that come in new into the business, obviously many of them have already had experience running other businesses. And so we're not necessarily teaching them business 101. Um, buy here, pay here might be new to them, in which case we're obviously focusing on the pieces that are buy here, pay here specific. One thing we do though early on with all of our clients is we ask them to think about, what does exit look like? What is absenteeism? So my definition of absenteeism is like, if you want to be away from the business and be involved in other, investments and real estate, and this is just one track of your investment, and you're going to be away and have somebody else running it. Can we get there? Can we be gone on a vacation for 2 or 4 weeks and have the business function business as usual? So those are the things we talk about with all of our clients, even when they're brand new. So that just means all of these things that we're talking about today are all part of an effort to help us, one, be more productive as a business, and obviously to create better results, through that, but then also to position us as owners to not have to be in the building every hour of every day.
Yes, absolutely.
So these are all steps. So let me cover the security piece real quick. There are things that we tell our new clients, even when they're brand new. So I'll tell them, look, even if we work together for 10 to 15 years, there are things that I'm going to tell you that, I would think you should still be involved at some level in these things, even 15 years from now, in buy here, pay here. So that's why we say, buy here, pay here is not really a business that we feel like is going to ever be autopilot. There are going to be some things that we're going to recommend you always stay involved in. The short list for me quickly is, and there's things we can go through. I think I've covered this probably in the show before, but basically internal controls. So it would be things like, all your software controls are going to be certain controls, but also purchasing. Actually doesn't mean we're the person physically in the lane buying the cars, but we really probably ought to stay involved in purchasing to make sure, because that has such a profound impact on the rest of our business. Underwriting is something we ought to stay involved in. Doesn't mean we approve every single deal,
one, but it's a good idea.
but we have to make sure that we monitor and verify that deals are being underwritten in the way that we suggest. And also there may be certain deals that you participate in, whether that's based on cost and car or risk in the deal or whatever. You might have your boundaries. So that would certainly be something that we would recommend, even as you move toward absenteeism. Even when you're on vacation, you would have a set of rules around those kind of things. And then the other would be those key software functions that we've talked about, which is things like being able to recontract customers, defer payments. Some of those kind of things are where we have some vulnerabilities, and we recommend that our clients continue to be involved. So that's stuff that we would recommend probably stays on the have to list. I have to stay involved for the sake of my health of my business. I have to stay involved in those things. So again, we get that. And then quickly, I got to tell the story. One of our clients, we had a conversation. I won't name the name. We'll protect the innocent here, but basically we had a fun conversation around, the client acknowledged to me that, they may have a bit of a control problem, like a bit of a control freak. And I said, okay, so you know how they do it. The first thing, like they do at AA, the first step is just knowing that you have a problem. So I would say, maybe practice in the mirror, go to the mirror and say, hello, my name is Kevin, and I have a control problem. Like, you don't have to go to an AA meeting, but let's first recognize we may have a control problem.
Okay. Well, and that's a really great segue. Thank you,
You're
Jim.
welcome.
Into something that there's like another filter for this entire list that we want you to consider as
Mhm.
you're going through this, and that is signs of micromanagement.
Right.
So let me give you some examples of signs of micromanagement. All right. So, gosh, I hope everyone has a pad of paper today, or at least going to listen to this 4 or 5 times. 1, every task needs your approval. 2, you need to be CC'd on everything that goes out. So you're hyper aware of your employees' whereabouts.
Okay.
You love editing employees' work. You hate delegating tasks.
Right.
Now, hear that again. The inability to delegate a task is a form of micromanagement.
Mm-hmm.
So you hate delegating tasks.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one is you're sweating the small stuff.
Right.
So, so let me, these are just some signs that you're a micromanager. Now, let me tell you about why it is so important that you recognize if you are micromanaging and that you shift that behavior. There are a bazillion articles out there about why you need to stop micromanaging your team.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're going to do this list of have tos, want tos, no one else can, requires training. Why in the heck am I doing this? And then the last one is this a micromanaging, something that I'm doing that's micromanaging? Like I said, bazillion different articles. There's a quote, hbr.org. It says, micromanaging dents your team's morale by establishing a tone of mistrust, and it limits your team's capacity to grow.
That's the big one for me. I think, when we stunt our growth, that's again, it prevents us from being a sustainable business. It prevents us from, being able to have that absenteeism. It really just limits our ability to, and not to mention, just purely from a financial standpoint, is not everybody's got the desire to grow,
Mm-hmm.
but as we grow, we enjoy all these economies. From centralization, like being able to centralize our distribution center or our collections department or whatever. We enjoy economies and we become more profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a financial argument for growth. I'm a walk before you run kind of person, but I get the advantage of growing to a certain point. And so when we get bogged down in all this stuff that Michelle just listed, because we're so tangled up in the day to day and we're micromanaging our people, or we're doing stuff that, we feel like others we can't trust to do it, then we begin to, we limit ourselves in what we can do. I've told the story many times about somebody I worked with years ago that I trained, who was an excellent manager when it came to working with people. My gosh, they were so good at working with customers. But I began to notice that they had a problem where they just felt like they alone could really handle certain customers.
Mm-hmm.
And it just meant that again was a limiting factor. It's like, if only you can handle those customers or can handle customers at all, then obviously that limits our growth, because we're now limited to however many customers you can personally manage on a daily basis.
You have a lot of
whatever.
stories about that.
Yeah, it
that
just was a
yeah.
good example of somebody that, and it's hard to dislodge somebody from that behavior, that practice, because all those things are so ingrained in the way that we like to work. But we have to recognize that it does stunt our growth. It limits our ability to grow, and maybe we're content not to grow, but we just have to be careful. When we surveyed dealers some time ago through our poll out there on the Facebook groups, most dealers indicated, I forget the percentage, but most dealers indicated they were working 50 hours plus a week.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you enjoy it, that's one thing. But if your business could run in such a way that you could be there 40, 30, couldn't we get to that place? And now doesn't that position us to step back and work on our business, make sure that we're more efficient, decide about growth, all those kind of things. And so I think that's why we get it. Like, we see dealers on that hamster wheel, as we talk about. And this is why, from Michelle and I's perspective, having traveled, is why we felt like it was important to introduce this, because we see this as kind of I don't want to call it an epidemic, but it's pretty widespread, as far as our management
I
of the
kind
business.
of think I kind of, and in a way, coming from an outsider perspective,
Mhm.
I kind of think it's just like, it's the culture of what people think it's supposed to look like.
Okay.
And that it's like, well, you have to, because if you don't, then everything's going to fall apart. And I would say, there, I forget who the self-help whatever person is, like, is that true?
Right.
Is that really, really true?
Mhm.
Is that really, really, really true?
Mhm.
That's a really great question to ask. And I, just from, figuring out this kind of list in the buckets, that if you could limit yourself eventually, and we're not asking you to do any of the action items yet.
Mhm.
So don't be like, immediately, I'm calling a meeting and I'm going to start delegating this. Not yet.
Right.
Okay. So we're just asking you this week to do nothing but look at these lists and taking a few moments and deciding what bucket they fall in. That's it. Now, if you're going to take any action this week, just make sure that I'm going to drop the things that I'm just wasting my time doing, because it doesn't matter. There are things that just simply don't matter. But don't start delegating yet. Don't start making movement yet, other than let's just focus on the list, and then focus on what bucket these things go in.
Right.
Because eventually, where we're trying to help you get to is that you're there doing the things you have to and the things you want to, and everything else is being taken care of.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you don't still spot check those things,
Yeah,
right? You
but
still
that's
can
a have
monitor.
to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll monitor what's happening and verify productivity and all those kind of things. And that lets you shift into more of the kind of leader that gets to go around and support people, not micromanage them, and encourage them and offer them resources. And now we become the kind of manager who's helping our people do more. They feel more valued, which I got to say, Michelle, that's something we have to talk about, and we probably need to save a future episode. But one of the things we're seeing is people having so much trouble hiring. And it's important that we recognize this is a hard concept for people to come to grips with, but there seems to be a shift. We're certainly very much aware of it from our perspective on the business world. And
This
just
is another topic, but
yeah,
it's a
a
nice
separate
little
topic, but it's something
thread.
to keep in mind that, people need to feel valued. They need to feel like they have a purpose, not just
Who
a
was it that we were having a
task.
conversation with?
Um,
I forgot who it was, but it was like people that are our pool of people, this Gen Z
I don't
and
know.
Gen
Millennials.
Y, millennials, all of that. That, yes, a paycheck means something, but a purpose means something even more.
Right.
And that they feel like they want to be part of something, not
Yeah.
just get a paycheck, but
Yeah.
they want to be part of something.
Yeah, there's something there that we think is going to need to be talked about more and more, because it affects us in buy here, pay here, and we know that there are solutions. And but really, if you think about just stuffing somebody in a cubicle, so to speak, and giving them, tasks, it's just not very. It's not very fulfilling work for people, and doesn't mean the jobs don't have to be done, but we can do better. Like there's ways that we can help
absolutely.
create better solutions for those folks and make them feel a part of what's going on. So yeah, that's all kind of part of what we would be recommending as a overall strategy. I think Michelle and I feel comfortable in the kind of the way we've mapped out the next 3 weeks around this topic. Like we if you'll stay tuned in, we feel like we can, really bring some good ideas to this conversation and help people, help themselves in terms of the management side of this thing.
Yeah. So is it next week we're going to be talking a bit about that bucket that no one else can, and it requires training.
Yeah.
And really helping you create a way that those things are very safe in the hands of other people.
Yeah.
To do. So like I said, don't start delegating everything out tomorrow, because this is an exercise this is something that this could be added to so many different elements of our lives.
Right.
But this is an exercise this next week of, now let's figure out where these things fall, and then next week we're going to start jumping into the no one else can and requires training piece. because we've got some really great, ideas and things that we've introduced to some of our clients that has been really effective. So yeah, so don't get ahead of yourself. Continue this week. Continue writing the stuff down. Continue, and start looking at it through those filters, and getting rid of those things like really hard look. Am I wasting my time? Is this a value add at all to anything? Because if it isn't, then just stop doing it. Just stop doing any of those things that you're wasting your time on. And then also, taking that entire list through the filter of, is this a symptom of micromanaging?
Right.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes we talk about these things. It's hard to sound like it starts to sound like we're picking on people. And I think it's important. We're helping folks identify, potential breakdowns in their business. And that's in the context of trying to help.
We all do it, though. That's the thing, is that,
sure.
that there's some things that Jim and I have sat down and chatted about, and he's like, really, I can handle this. It's like, but he's like, really, I can handle this. So I am micromanaging Jim.
She's trying.
Yeah, he doesn't let me.
She's a very capable manager, and I'll clue you in that most of the time she's right. And the times that she's that I have a different idea, I'll say that I'll obviously assert.
Well, it's you just posted something about a week or so ago that we did the math, and it was like, I agree with you, like 95.78% of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're on the same page.
We really are.
Yeah.
There's very little that's not. So during this week too, I've got one other thing that I would really love for y'all to watch. And I mentioned earlier the Independent Dealers podcast, the one that they just did on the 3 ways that people are stealing from you. Really, really, really great information. They did another one. Well, actually, it's not a podcast per se, but they also have an owner's manual weekly newsletter. And so if anyone out there are familiar with Luke and Jeff, that get on their website and see if you can get on their owner's manual weekly newsletter. I think that it's and there's just something that's they throw out something that you can do for the week. And there is one that Luke did on delegation. And this is a different track of delegating than what we're going to, I think it's going to be a really beautiful layering of what we're going to talk about and what he talks about too. Cause it's, so if you get a chance this week, watch that, or actually subscribe to the newsletter. And if you can't get a hold of that specific week on delegation, shout out to me and I'll send you a copy of it, because it's really good information.
Yeah. And I would just say, look, we understand that most of our listeners are quite familiar with micromanagement. They're quite familiar with the value of delegating. I think what we're going to try to do next week is take listeners inside some very concrete ways to take some steps. And you'll find that we've had success. I had success as a young consultant many years ago, breaking down initiatives, setting targets. So, in the weeks to come, we're going to start to talk about the difference between goals and targets and what I call initiatives. So we'll break those down, and we're going to help you to start to take some very concrete steps to maybe move some of these things off your plate.
Yep. So if you have any dealer friends that are not listening yet to the morning show,
what could be wrong with that?
I know, right?
Where are they?
Because this is stuff that can help so many dealers out there. Is just, spread the word. Have them pop in there and take a listen to what we talked about last week and this week, so they can kind of get caught up. But we don't want people to rush through this whole process in just a couple of days. This is really something that should take a little bit of time to do.
So remember, you can find us on LinkedIn.
You can find us on LinkedIn.
Like and subscribe on YouTube. You can also share, invite a friend.
You can on YouTube. Now we hope that you subscribe to the channel, which is the Octane Group, and look for Jim Rhodes. Subscribe to the channel, and then as soon as content is downloaded. We usually download like these podcasts that we're going to do with with Bill and the other one with Brent.
Brent,
We'll go in there in a semi-rough form first, and then we'll clean it up, and then we'll put it in there, and then we'll put it on the syndicated stations. So if you want to be able to hear these things like right out of the gate, make sure you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. And then if there's cool stuff that you have learned, just hit that like button.
Yeah. So, we are syndicated. So the next day you'll be able to hear the stuff over
After it's done.
Yeah. And the, Apple or Spotify, but you'll be able to tell people, oh yeah, I saw that yesterday on YouTube.
It's so
yeah.
old
That's
news.
old. That's yesterday's news. That was, so that's why we like to have you over on YouTube. That's where the freshest stuff goes out.
Oh my goodness. Such a great topic today. Really looking forward to next week. Looking for, if y'all have different ideas or some insights or whatever, we'd love to hear about them.
Right.
As you're going along. So have a great week. Happy Monday this week. Just get out there and kill it. It's going to be a fantastic week.
Thanks for those who tune in. David Norton, saw your comments in there. Thanks for joining us, and all of you who are hanging in here with us. We appreciate you.
All right. Have a great week.